गेलो तो सकाळी पोलीस कमिशनरला भेटून गेलो. तर म्हणजे इंटरनल एक कॉन्फिडेन्शियल इन्क्वायरी करा.
आपण केले ना.
हां, आणि मग तो त्याच्या बेसिसवर कंप्लेंट घ्या. करतो म्हटलं मी. दोघं चौघांना हात घेतो आणि कान पडतो मी करतो. आम्ही ताव कोण गुप्ता म्हणून आहे तिथं सकाळी घेतो ना.
आलो की आम्ही.
मी प्रसन्नजीत आणि तिघे घेतो.
अच्छा
आणि
काय केलं.
पवार सर, I can't see Pawar sir anyway.
आलो की आम्ही.
Washroom, yeah. Dimple, just go with.
हॉलमध्येच आहे. हॉलमध्येच.
लावून ठेवलं वर डोक्यावर.
गार, खूपच गार. थेट डोक्याला.
हो ना.
कोणीच हॉलची व्यवस्था बघणारे कोणीच नसतं आपल्या आजूबाजूला.
माणसंच नाही येत नसतं ना. तो इथं व्हायचं का नाही इथपर्यंत झालं होतं ते.
तरी एवढं त्यांनी गोळा केलं बघा.
काल त्यांनी डिनर वगैरे ठेवलं. मी काय गेलो ना.
ह्यानी का.
ते सगळं हेच केलं ना ॲडमिरल. म्हटलं नाही हो मी त्या वैद्यांच्या कार्यक्रमात गेलो होतो. वैद्य म्हणजे आयुर्वेदिक वैद्य. तिथून मग यायला मला 4 वाजले, 3:30-4 वाजले. ती 75 होती. दिवाण वगैरे कसले काय नसते. दिवा पेटवा
काय पेटो.
दिवा वगैरे म्हणतो तसं. सर्दी कमी होईल.
त्यांना पण आहे. काळकर सरांना पण खूप आहे. खूप आजारी आहेत लोक. त्याच्यामुळं टेम्परेचर फ्लक्च्युएशन, अचानक थंडी वाढली, त्याचा परिणाम. घसा, डोकेदुखी, ताप, 3 प्रकार.
बाकी ते काही नाही आहे मला. सर्दी आणि खोकलाच झालेलं. विधानसभा म्हणजे काय आखाडाच झाला आहे. ते
काही नाही काय
घाणेरडे चाललेले. त्याला अटक करा, त्याला निलंबन करा.
सगळंच अगदी निराशाजनक आहे.
अगदीच भयानक आहे. काही होतच नाही. तो राऊत तर तो काय घाण बोलतो. तर राज्यपालांना झेपेल तेवढाच अभ्यास करा. या वेळेत कशाला अभ्यास पाहिजे. त्यांनी सांगितलं ना कायदे तज्ज्ञांकडनं हे करून.
ते सगळं काही चालू आहे चुकीचं. हे चुकीचं चालू आहे सगळं.
अनारकी म्हणतात ना तिथे पूर्ण.
आता कायदा बदल झाल्यासारखंच वागायला लागलेत ते. विद्यापीठ कायदा तर पूर्णपणे झाला आहे बदल. याच पद्धतीनं सगळं त्यांचं वागणं बोलणं.
काल पटवर्धन चांगलं लिहिलं.
हो, मोठ्यामध्ये.
जाणेऱ्यांचा फोन
अच्छा.
त्याच्यावर काहीतरी केलं पाहिजे आपण शांत बसून उपयोग नाही.
Hello. Please stand up. The guests have arrived.
Pleasure. हा ठीक आहे ना ठीक आहे. हो. हो काय प्रॉब्लेम.
Yeah.
तिकडचं उघडावं लागेल. तिकडचं उघडावं. हां तुम्ही जो हो इथे
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, Savitribai Phule Pune University, I, Bharati Kokil, welcome you all to the MOU signing ceremony between Savitribai Phule Pune University and National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune. Before we begin, I would like to mention here that safety measures being our topmost priority, we are following social distancing and all the guidelines of COVID-19 safety measures. All of us present here have taken 2 doses of vaccination and are wearing masks. This program of signing the MOU is being telecast live on university website and all the colleges. As per the traditions of Savitribai Phule Pune University, we begin the university song. I request everyone to stand up while the song is being played.
कर्मशील कर्म ज्ञानवान ज्ञान बनो कर्मशील कर्म श्रमनिष्ठा हे पवित्र तीर्थ मानतो, हृदयातून समतेचा निर्भय अभिमान, ज्ञान बनो कर्मशील कर्म ज्ञानवान, पुण्यमयी दे आम्हा अक्षर वरदान. सेवेतच मुक्ती ही मंगल दीक्षा, न्यायास्तव जागृती ही सत्व परीक्षा. सेवेतच मुक्ती ही मंगल दीक्षा, न्यायास्तव जागृती ही सत्व परीक्षा. हे विश्वची घर अमुचे मंत्र हा महान, ज्ञान बनो कर्मशील कर्म ज्ञानवान, पुण्यमयी दे आम्हा अक्षर वरदान, पुण्यमयी दे आम्हा अक्षर वरदान. ज्ञान बनो कर्मशील कर्म ज्ञानवान, ज्ञान बनो कर्मशील कर्म ज्ञानवान.
Thank you all. Please be seated. All auspicious functions and ceremonies commence with the lighting of the lamp. Flame symbolizes wisdom and knowledge. Hence, we light the lamp to bow down to knowledge as the greatest of all forms of wealth. May I request the dignitaries to light the lamp? The dignitaries lighting the lamp. We have the Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, our guest of honor, Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, Head of Department, Dr. Professor Vijay Khare, I would now request the head of the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, Professor Vijay Khare, to welcome the guests.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Nitin Karmakar, Chief Guest of today's function, Honorable Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, AVSM and BA, VSM, and Director General, National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Principal N.S. Umrani, Registrar of the University, Professor Praful Pawar, who is going to join in next few minutes. Respected Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale, Savarkar Chair Professor, General Chauhan, Chhatrapati Shivaji Chair Professor, former Chair Professor, Captain Dikshit, Indian Maritime Foundation, Rear Admiral Nadkarni, Commodore Chitnis, Dean, Faculty of Commerce and Management, Professor Parag Kalkar, eminent experts in the field of strategic studies, research scholars from the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, my staff from International Center, students, and dear representative from media and electronic and print media people. It gives me great pleasure to welcome on behalf of Department of Defense and Strategic Studies and Savitribai Phule Pune University. Today, once again, we are entering in a historic moment that first time National Maritime Foundation is going to sign MOU with Department of Defense and Strategic Studies. The main objective of the MOU to share the knowledge in the field of maritime security, exchange the expert views among Department and National Maritime Foundation. We are all aware that National Maritime Foundation is the aegis of the Minister of Defense, and it is the only foundation which is working on maritime security. I am very happy to welcome all experts who come from different places, and particularly Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, who is giving today a talk on our historical contemporary development warship types, classes, projects, and inherent characteristics of warships. Let me, before going to introduce Honorable Chief Guest, once again I welcome to each one. But before going to start our formal function, let me say a few things about the department. Honorable Vice Chancellor took a charge as the Vice Chancellor of the university, and he has taken important task to make it a defense and strategic studies as one of the USP of the university. And whenever we submitted a proposal before him, within a second he has sanctioned all kinds of proposal which is given by the department. I'm very happy that we had a Chhatrapati Shivaji Policy Chair in 1994, and 94 to 16 there was only one chair in the department, and one chair is Savarkar chair was sponsored by Pune people, and one chair that was sponsored by Indian Army in 1994. But with the help of Honorable Vice Chancellor, we supported a proposal to the Indian Air Force, and Indian Air Force was the first kind of institution who has given to Chair of Excellence in the name of Marshal of the Air Force Arjun Singh, and that chair instituted in the department on 29th February 2020. That is the first kind of Chair of Excellence in the department, and very happy that Air Marshal Soman has occupied that chair, and he is working in that chair, and he is coming with the book related to air capability of the nation building. Then Minister of Defense also invited the application to set up a chair of excellence in the field of Indian military history. Again, Honorable Vice Chancellor made a presentation along with me, and we made it presentation before the expert committee. And I'm very happy that from all over India, there were 23 leading universities, including JNU, Manipal, and other leading universities were applicant in that. But University of Savitribai Phule Pune University, they have identified, and the first kind of chair of excellence instituted by Minister of Defense to study the Indian military history. And very soon, we are going to appoint a chair professor or researchers in that chair, and we will give it a roadmap to understand the Indian military history. Apart from that, in 2017, our number of student strength was only 40, including RSP and MPhil PhD program. And in a MPhil and PhD program, there was a limited guides available. So then in 2017 onwards, when I took a charge as a HOD with the able leadership and with the able guidance of Honorable Vice Chancellor, we introduced new courses, and that new courses is given a new kind of opportunity for us. At presently, from 42 in 2021, total number of strength who is understanding the defense and strategic studies is touching 400. And this is the first kind of department in a country such large number of students are understanding defense and strategic studies. We have started a fire integrated course, and fire integrated course for the purpose of to understand the student must understand the national security awareness or defense and strategic issues. Most of the leading institutions and think tanks talks about defense and strategic studies, and in a different way. Particularly, all strategic think tanks are based in Delhi and around the Delhi city, and most of the professionals is discussing about the strategic issues. But the common man, when they talked about war strategy, geopolitics, international relation, so this is a difficulty. So considering the that situation, we thought that we could develop a ecosystem, and we have started fire integrated course after 12th, and I'm very happy that this year we have received the student from 9 states, and it was full competition. Then we have started MA program in Global Peace and Strategic and Security Studies, which is also giving opportunity to student can easily get an internship in UN system. Fortunately, I have close association with the United Nations University, and after getting that degree, student can get the benefit for the internship in United Nations. Apart from that, very innovative program we have launched. We are studying Indian military history, and in Indian military history, we are studying about the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. But with the help of General Chavan, Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale, and our team, we have instituted a new first kind of postgraduate diploma to understand Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj policies, strategy, and nation building concept. Most of the people we are talking about the state and nation state from Westphalia treaty onwards, we talked about nation building and concept of nation state. But how Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj laid down the foundation to understand the statecraft, and we have instituted that all topics, and that PG diploma started. And sir, I'm very happy that Member of Parliament himself visited to us, and he has taken the admission in that course. And for 20 vacancy, we have received more than 600 plus application. And then we increase our intake, and total number of intake is 40 now. Then we, considering the nature of COVID, we also talked about, we have instituted a new PG diploma, that is a CBRN, this chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons, to have at least basic knowledge of the CBRN. So we have instituted new PG diploma in CBRN and national security. Most of the media people, when they write about war strategy in a peace time, and particularly in a conflict time or in a war time, they need to have a professional training. And with the help of General Chavan, again, we are working with the DGMT, and we are trying to send our student to have a war correspondence course training through that course. And we started one PG diploma in defense analyst and national security. That also is going well. Apart from that, disaster management and national security, and other few courses which are dealing with the contemporary topic. Now, with this all, at presently, 2 master program, 1 fire integrated program, and 11 PG diplomas. And today, we are going to launch new PG diploma, which is one of the milestone in the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, as well as in Savitribai Phule Pune University, where we are talking about the maritime security, underwater domain issues. Particularly, it is very difficult to understand. When you will listen to Admiral Chavan, then you will understand what kind of issues we have to understand the maritime security. So this today, this MOU particularly deal with to exchange the faculty, exchange the staff, as well as the resources. Just I have shown we have limited books in a department, but we have updated library. And when I have shown the library to Vice Admiral Pradeepji, then he said, why not we can exchange our library? They have good resources. So that would be a benefit for the department as well as the Savitribai Phule Pune University. So this is the development is taking place on behalf of the department, and it has happened only because of the Honorable Vice Chancellor. All the time he supported. So I would request you all to please give a big hand for him from last, in his tenure, from more, as his tenure is going to finish in month of May, But from beginning, any time, means we are having a B.C. Joshi Memorial Lectures and any kind of program, he wholeheartedly he supported, and because of his support, today Department of Defense and Strategic Studies is not the best department in a country, but my vision and mission, I am dedicated for the department that this should be one of the best departments in South Asia as well as in Asian continent. This is my idea, and I am trying to get help from all resources, and with all help from all authorities, my registrar, my Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Apurva Palkar, who is the Director of Innovation Incubation and International Linkages, all my university authorities, they supported to the department, and ultimately we have reached this target. So with this background, once again, I welcome on behalf of department, on behalf of Savitribai Phule Pune University, I welcome to each one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for highlighting us about the activities of the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies. We now proceed with the felicitation. May I request Professor Dr. Nitin Karmalkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Savitribai Phule Pune University, to felicitate Vice Admiral Pradeep Chavan, AVSM and BAR, VSM, Indian Navy, retired, Director General, National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi, with a shawl, memento, and a bouquet. The Honorable Vice Chancellor felicitating the guest with a shawl, memento, and a bouquet. Thank you, sir. I request Captain Anand Dikshit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune, to felicitate Professor Dr. Nitin Karmalkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Savitribai Phule Pune University. Captain Anand Dikshit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune, felicitating Dr. Nitin Karmalkar. Thank you, sir. I request Rear Admiral R.J. Nadkarni, AVSM, VSM, Indian Navy, retired, to felicitate Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor N.S. Umrani, Savitribai Phule Pune University. Rear Admiral R.J. Nadkarni, AVSM, VSM, Indian Navy, retired, felicitating Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor N.S. Umrani, sir, Savitribai Phule Pune University. Thank you, sir. I request Professor Vijay Khare. I now request Professor Vijay Khare to felicitate Professor Dr. Praful Pawar, Registrar, Savitribai Phule Pune University. Professor Dr. Praful Pawar, Registrar, felicitated by Khare, sir. I request Professor Dr. Vijay Khare to felicitate Captain Anand Dikshit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune, with a shawl. Professor Vijay Khare, Head of Department, Defense, felicitating Captain Anand Dikshit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune, with a shawl, memento, and a bouquet. Thank you, sir. May I now request Captain Anand Dikshit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune, to introduce the chief guest speaker, Captain Anand Dixit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation.
Professor Nitin Karmalkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, SPPU, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Indian Maritime Foundation, National Maritime Foundation, and DDSS, a very good afternoon to you and a warm welcome to Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, AVSM and BAR, VSM, Indian Navy retired, our speaker for the day, who has come all the way from Delhi to deliver this talk. Thank you, sir, for giving your valuable time to be with us today. This lecture is a continuation of NMF-IMF joint program under our MOU, and after having successfully conducted 3 events, we have now moved on to the 4th chapter of the series. This time in association with the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies of SPPU. We are grateful to Dr. Vijay Khare and the Honorable VC, Dr. Nitin Karmalkar, for making the university facilities available for this lecture and for our long mutual understanding going back over 10 years. Introduction of Admiral Chauhan in the time allotted to me is a difficult task. His achievements and accomplishments are a subject of a talk in themselves. So I shall restrict myself to a few important milestones of his long career. Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan is an alumnus of the National Defense Academy, the Defense Services Staff College, the Naval War College, and the National Defense College. He holds BSc, MSc, and MPhil degrees. He is currently the Director General of the National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi, India's foremost center for strategic studies with focus on India's maritime interests. The Admiral retired on the 30th of November 2013 after an illustrious 4-decade-long career in the executive branch of the Indian Navy. His naval career includes a 3-year deputation to the government of Mauritius, where he set up and commanded the Mauritius National Coast Guard. He has been the principal evaluator of the Navy's battle tactics, the head of the naval training team at the Defense Services Staff College, and the principal director of naval operations. His extensive sea-going service includes command of the guided missile frigate INS Brahmaputra, culminating in the command of the aircraft carrier, the Virat. As a flag officer, he was the Navy's first Assistant Chief of the Naval Staff, Foreign Cooperation and Intelligence, where he conceptualized and executed the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. As a Vice Admiral, he has been the Chief of Staff of the Western Naval Command and the Commandant of the Indian Naval Academy, Izimala. He has been commended 3 times by the President of India for distinguished service. Post-retirement, he has continued his good work as a leadership mentor and orator. He is a visiting faculty at various establishments of all 3 defense services and advisor to the Government of India on security matters. The Admiral is a prolific writer with over 85 published professional articles and papers. We are indeed privileged to have such a distinguished personality as our guest today, as our chief guest today and speaker. One of the items of today's program is the inauguration of the new postgraduate diploma course being launched by DDSS, Maritime and Underwater Domain Awareness. I would like to apprise you briefly about this course, the idea behind the course, and the potential it offers. India has a long coastline and an exclusive economic zone stretching to 200 nautical miles, which in the future may be extended to 350 nautical miles. The EEZ includes ocean surface, the water column, the seabed, and the subsoil under the seabed. We have exclusive rights to explore and exploit all the living and non-living resources in the EEZ. These resources include, but are not limited to, marine life, which basically means fish, oil, gas, minerals, and sources of renewable energy, such as the winds, waves, and tides. The ocean offers many other benefits. For example, aquaculture or fish farming, pearl harvesting, desalination plants to produce fresh water, underwater recreation, and so on. The Deep Water Mission, announced by the Government of India on the 16th of June 2021, together with SAGAR, which stands for Security and Growth for All in the region, the Maritime India Vision 2030, and the various blue economy measures taken by the government aim towards sustainable use of the resources in the EEZ and in the littoral region near the shores. The resources of special interest to India are oil, gas, and seabed mining, especially the polymetallic nodules lying scattered on the sea bottom in the Indian Ocean. These nodules contain manganese, copper, nickel, cobalt, iron hydroxide, and many others. These metals have the potential to be used in electronic devices, smartphones, batteries, and even solar panels. Our oceanographic institutes, the National Institute of Oceanography, NIO, based in Goa, National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, NCPOR, also in Goa, and the National Institute of Ocean Technology, NIOT, in Chennai, have played a major role in establishing our presence in the Indian Ocean region. Coming back to this course, the course is designed to give the student an understanding of the maritime domain, the underwater domain, the resources available in the ocean, and how to protect them. That is the security aspect. We have given major weightage to this security aspect, covering the role of the Navy, the Coast Guard, covering submarine operations, autonomous underwater vehicles, remote operated vehicles, and so on. The deep sea mission and other offshore projects are going to require trained manpower from various disciplines. This course is an endeavor to take a step in that direction and provide an introduction to students on all aspects of the oceans, the maritime domain, and opportunities available for further studies and employment. For more details, please go through the course brochure. A word about the Indian Maritime Foundation, or IMF for short. IMF is a non-profit organization founded by a group of Indian Navy and Merchant Navy officers in 1993. Our chief objective is to raise awareness of the issues related to naval, geostrategic, merchant marine, oceanographic, and environmental fields. We associate with like-minded organizations with similar interests to conduct joint programs such as the one we are having today. For more details, please visit our website or meet our representative at the IMF desk. Especially, this is a message to the students who are present here. We have opened membership for the students at a special rate, so please get in touch with us and learn more about IMF. I think it is time now to move on to the next program. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Anand Dikshit, President, Indian Maritime Foundation, Pune, for introducing the chief guest and briefing us about the new course. Thank you, sir. And now we proceed with the signing of the MOU between the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, Savitribai Phule Pune University, and National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi. The historic signing of the MOU. The signing of the MOU is done by the dignitaries. Thank you, sirs. May I now request Professor Dr. Nitin Karmalkar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Savitribai Phule Pune University, to deliver a speech to the August gathering.
Namaskar and good afternoon. Let me first of all welcome you all for this momentous occasion of MOU signing between the Savitribai Phule Pune University and the Maritime Foundation, New Delhi. It's indeed a pleasure for the University of Pune and for the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, which perhaps one of the, I would say, best department presently seen at the country level, at the national level. And has already been talked about elaborately by the head of the department, the achievements of this particular department in the last decade, which to an extent have provided an extensive visibility both to the department as well as to the university as such. So I, in fact, congratulate the head of the department for taking all these efforts single-handedly, I would call, because over the years there is a decline in staff number and there's a capping at the government level. Presently, in fact, we cannot put in new staff members as such. But despite all those odds, in fact, today also we've been actually passing through a little difficult time because there's a strike going on. So the non-teaching people to a great extent are on strike, and I wasn't very sure like whether we would be able to conduct this particular function. But I'm grateful to, again, the department as well as Khare sir for taking this baton forward. Let me first of all welcome today's chief guest, Vice Admiral Pradeepji Chauhan, AVSM and Bar, VSM, Director General, National Maritime Foundation, as well as Anand Dikshit, who has been looking after the unit at Pune, and my colleagues, my colleague on the campus, Professor Umrani, the Pro-Vice Chancellor, the Registrar, Professor Pawar sir, head, and the rest all dignitaries present for this wonderful function as such. The Savitribai Phule Pune University established in 1949, completing almost 73 years. And then as far as the national ranking goes, it is in the first 10 universities at the national level. And this has been consistently happening for last 4 years. So the NRF ranking, the accreditation that it has received, the A+ grade it has received, all that to a great extent has made the university visible not only at the national level, but even at the international level. Certain program that we do, in fact, with the international units like the Melbourne University, we've been running a blended BSc program with the Melbourne University. Then there's a liberal arts course that we have been doing with the University of California. Recently, we signed an MOU with the Drexel University for doing the biomedical engineering and biomedical instrumentation, a master's course. We've been fortunate to have, in fact, 4 national laboratories situated on the campus of the University of Pune. One is IUCA, second one is the JMRT, then CDAC, and then NCCS. And we have a very strong sort of a relationship, partnership with all these 4 institutions, and therefore research in the areas of physics, in the areas of life sciences, in the areas of chemistry, to a great extent is getting an advancement sort of. As far as the funding goes, in fact, perhaps we are the, number-wise, if you look at, we are the second largest university in the state of Maharashtra after Mumbai. We have roughly around 750 odd affiliated colleges, and we cater graduation programs to a large number of students, perhaps in the range of 7.5 lakhs of students. So they come from 3 district places, since we have jurisdiction over Pune, Nashik, and Nagar. So basically, 7.5 lakh students to a great extent get enrolled for their graduation program. On the campus, we have 52 postgraduate departments and research departments. There are almost a footprint of 10,000 students on the campus, but because of the COVID, obviously the hostels are closed. So most of the teaching activities happening in an online mode. Then apart from the postgraduate courses, we in fact recently have entered into undergraduate courses. And that perhaps is the first state university, in fact, doing so. Especially the courses like the liberal education, the courses like international business, courses like facility and hospitality management, liberal arts, blended BSc program, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the new initiatives that we are undertaking. Then perhaps this is the only state university which recently have launched its campus abroad, that is at Qatar, Doha, where some specific courses that we are running in partnership with the Qatar government, and the only state university you can call it to be. And then as far as the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies is concerned, basically situated in city like Pune, where we have a close connect with the most of the army authorities, army officials as such, whether it is Southern Command, whether it is Air Force, whether it is Army. What was missing was the naval part. And in fact, we have chairs both in Army, both in Air Force. We are trying hard basically to get the 3rd chair in the naval, and perhaps it would go. I'm pretty sure the kind of correspondence that has been happening and the positiveness, been shown by the concerned authorities. Very soon, in fact, we'll have a chair of excellence in that arena also. Maritime basically is a very vital sort of a research area, being basically a student of geology myself, and we have a close connect with NIO, we have close connect, in fact, MOU with the NIO, the Polar Research, and many more organizations as such. And I myself basically being a student of economic geology. So the polymetallic nodules, the oil resources, the oceanography, all those subjects are very near and dear to me. In fact, at couple of times, at couple of occasions, I in fact took up this issue with the ministry, but they were saying that Pune is far away from ocean. So somehow we were not getting the proper sort of a connect. Through this MOU, perhaps now we are establishing this particular linkages. So I'm so happy that the Maritime Foundation has come forward to do a hand-holding in this particular region, in this particular research area, and this perhaps would make the department more visible, especially in the third area that was missing as such. So I'm quite hopeful that the research and the activity that would go on under this particular MOU to a great extent would provide the necessary sort of mentoring that is required to take forward this particular area, both academically as well as a research point of view. So once again, I welcome every one of you. I'm pretty sure that we all are here to listen more about the historical and contemporary development of warships, and that is what we are interested more in understanding. So I leave the dais open to today's chief guest, Vice Admiral Pradeep G. Chauhan, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for briefing us about the achievements made by Savitribai Phule Pune University. Thank you. May I now request Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, AVSM and Bar, VSM, Indian Navy, retired, Director General, National Maritime Foundation, New Delhi, to deliver a lecture on historical and contemporary development of warships.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before I embark upon my talk, I will beg your indulgence because, you know, I'm a little bit challenged in English, and I never know the difference between prostate and prostrate. And I came here fully prepared to do prostrate, but unfortunately I need 2 minutes across to do prostate first. So I'll be back. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Pro-Chancellor of the Pune University, Honorable Registrar, Flag Officers, Officers, General Officers, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. My name is Pradeep Chauhan, in case you have forgotten in the short period that I was away. This is called a quick bladder dash before the boulder dash. So what we're going to do is recognize the fact that in many, many cases, very senior and very junior officers both have a problem in trying to sometimes comprehend the difference between what is a warship class, what is a type, what is this battleship, ye hai kya cheez? And, we generate such a lot of literature based on this level of confusion that I thought that even though I am not intending this to be an appropriate topic for higher thinking here, but we cannot get to higher thinking unless we are clear about all our thinking. Before I proceed any further, there's one comment I would like to make after saying thank you to the very generous comments that were made about me, about the maritime world. It is this. In the next 100 or 200 years, over the next 100 or 200 years, these 100 or 200 years are going to be the centuries of the sea. In this period, India is going to be a maritime power, or India is not going to be any kind of power at all. It is as simple as that. Now, on a scale of 0 to 10 in academia across the country, on a scale of 0 to 10, where awareness of the maritime domain is to be gauged, we are about minus 40. We have some way to go to climb onto the scale. And when we talk about security, we are not talking about hard security alone. Maritime security is simply freedom from threats arising either in the sea, or from the sea, or through the sea. And these threats could either be man-made, or they could be natural, tsunamis, cyclones, tropical revolving storms, or they could be combinations of these, climate change, ocean acidification, challenges in areas beyond national jurisdiction. What should we do about becoming a secure nation? Should we concentrate upon unsustainable activity? Should we plunge headlong into areas where angels fear to tread? Is the production of polymetallic nodules or massive sulfides from the seabed without risk? What about the environment? How should we balance all this? So we are not in that happy situation that the colonial powers were 100 and 200 years ago. We are a nation that desires to be a responsible maritime power. There are other examples across the east to our east of nations that are becoming maritime powers without achieving adequate responsibility. So in the MOU that has been signed today between the National Maritime Foundation and the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies of the SPPU, the effort is going to be to make Pune the center of a renaissance which is required in our country, for which Pune is the most famous center all across India in any case. How is that to be transferred now onto the maritime stage is what this MOU will endeavor to do. And for that, it is not enough that we have some Admiral Chauhan and we have some, Professor Khare. This is not enough. We need everybody. So it is possible, ladies and gentlemen, for us to balance a very large structure upon very small numbers of thin needles of excellence. It is possible. But such a structure will never be stable. For it to be stable, we need to increase the numbers of these needles. How should we start? We should start at the very beginning, because that's a good place to start. And so today, I'm going to try and attempt to give you the first flavor of where we might go in respect of understanding these seemingly complex and seemingly bewildering subjects, topics, nomenclatures, and the like. I hope I'm not going too slowly and not going too fast, and that you can hear me and I am intelligible. Accent वगैरह ठीक है ना? Please say yes, I work very hard at this. Thank you. Right, so ma'am, may I ask you to please go to the next slide? Is the slide with, who's controlling the slides? Right, so ma'am, could you go to the next? Yeah, stop there. And I will do a series of nexts, and you will please support me in that. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, let me talk to you about types of warships. And everybody here and everybody everywhere recognizes that there are several types of vehicles which are designed, for example, for road transport. Yeah, you have trucks, and you have buses, and you have a tram, and you have a car, motorcycle, moped. In Pune, you also have a strange creature called the auto rickshaw, which is actually a population control measure. And there are various types, and we're not fussed. Next, please. And so in the same way, in somewhat similar fashion, there are various and several types of warship whose generic names are a result of largely European naval history. And some illustrative, but certainly not exhaustive examples are on your screen. So I would suggest strongly that you look at the screen and just pretend that I'm somewhere in the background. Next, please. And so you have aircraft carriers, you have battleships, you have cruisers, destroyers, frigates, corvettes, and you've got hospital ships, and you've got amphibious vessels, patrol vessels, mine countermeasure vessels, special operational craft. If you haven't got a headache already, I will continue and tell you that there are submarines, there are submarine tenders, there are hydrographic ships, oceanographic ships, lots of ships, lots of types of ships. Within a type of ship, you can have, for example, amongst patrol vessels, you can have inshore patrol vessels or offshore patrol vessels. In the case of special operations craft, you can have craft which are like hovercraft. You can have non-displacement craft, displacement craft. You can have, in amphibious vessels, there are vessels that actually go on beach. And there are vessels which don't go on beach. So it's seemingly complex, but it's no more complex than imagine if you were from Mars and you landed up in Pune and you saw all these types of road vehicles. The chances are you will say, Mummy, can I go back to Mars? In the same way, most people come across to the Navy, read about things in the paper and say, is there some cricket news that I can follow? And that is where the foundational problem lies. Next, please. So let me touch upon some historical development without being too boring. Let me explain something to you. There is no boring history. There are only boring historians. Right? Just like there's no lousy mathematics. There are just horrendous mathematics teachers sometimes. Therefore, open your eyes to the subject of development and you will see why things are moving in the way they are going. Next, please. So the design of warships has always been a function of three factors. One, speed. And I feel the need for speed. Anybody from the Air Force understands that very well. But we also want maneuverability. We want to duck, evade, jink, all the same things that aircraft want to do. But we want to do it on the surface and subsurface as well. The third is we want to carry combat power. We have warships. Where, remember one thing which is really, really important, much more important than anything I'm going to say now, is that a warship is designed for the first three letters of that word. For war. It is not designed to be a ship. If it was designed for ship, then we could have built the QE-2 and lain down in some jacuzzi and had some gorgeous creature dropping grapes into our mouth. But warships are built for war. And therefore, they must carry and they must be able to deliver combat power. How to deliver combat power when your combat means was human beings? So, I have a sword, you have a bow and arrow, you have a spear, you have a halberd, something. We need human beings, large numbers of human beings, because those are the guys who will do the fighting. So you needed three things. Consequently, ships had to be designed for speed. That means they had to be made as close to an arrow shape as possible. They had to be designed for maneuverability, which means you had to have many, many mechanisms by which you could turn the ship in short order. And they had to be large so that you could carry many men. Therefore, that picture there defines for you what is known as a galley, which is long, narrow ships propelled by oars. And this was the standard for ship design. Next, please. And now, how do you multiply the number? How do you get faster? I want to go faster. I'm not happy. I've got a 140-foot long vessel, but I want to be able to beat you in speed, in maneuver. So what do I need? I need more propulsive power. How to get more propulsive power when propulsive power is coming from the arms of the people who are propelling that vessel? More numbers of people on a single oar. One oar, many people on the oar. Then you end up with triconters, 30 oars, pentaconters, 50 oars. Then you say, put not only more oars, but more men on an oar. So you get variants, 2 men on each oar, 4 men on each oar. Next, you say, I want even more oars. And the guy says, okay, next please. And so you can have 2 rows of oars, one above the other. So one group is sitting in, like in those double-decker trains you have. You know, one lot is sitting up, one lot is sitting down. Both have got oars, both are pulling away. So that's called a bi-ream. 2 bi-reams, 2 rows of oars, 1 row being on top of the other. Next, please. And then that wasn't enough. So you said, okay, let's go for triremes. 3 rows and 3 rows of oars. And then many variants of that, 5 guys on an oar. Then you found that there's a problem. These oars are getting in the way of each other. So you created some variants with 2 men on the higher oars, only 1 man on the lower oar. You kept trying to find the perfect match, the perfect mix between combat power, speed, maneuverability. Next. And now you had on that ship, you decided that, okay, we can actually have bows and arrows. We can have swordsmen. So you needed swords and archers, and yet you still wanted more combat capability. Next. So then you moved on, and you had armies going to sea. This is always a bad idea. But in truth, they needed protection. These archers needed protection, so you created castles. You created castles in the front of the ship, in the forward part, and you created castles in the back of the ship. Forward castles, 4 castles. Forward of the previous castle. After means behind you, and then became after castles. So the forward castle became contracted in name to forecastle, and the after castle became known as the stern castle, or it became known as the poop deck, which is where poop is not what your doggy does, but it is when a wave is coming from behind your ship, and it hits you from behind, then that is called your ship has got pooped. You remember which end the dog does his poop from? Same problem. So let's go further. Next slide. And so you had these biremes with their castles, and then you added sails. So you now wanted to have some wind power assisting your propulsion by oars. Next slide. And now you decided, yeah, this is a mug's game. You know, how many people can I carry? So why don't we change the whole concept? Why don't we make the ship itself the weapon? Rather than having the ship carrying people who carried weapons, what about if the ship itself became the weapon? So we fitted rams. And if you see that white circle, which has got the pecked circle there, and the word rams, so the ship had a long, pointy, hard, metallic or hardwood protrusion with which the ship itself simply plowed into the other ship. Dhakka. And in the process, broke the other ship into 2. So, new concepts. Next. And then, this is a slide taken from the famous movie Ben-Hur, in which you decided, okay, how do I get ram nahi karna yaar. I don't want my whole ship to go into that other ship. I want to be able to come home safely and say, hi mom, I'm back and I won the war. And she says, beta mujhe pata tha. How do you do this? You do this by making sure that we have, what should we do? We should have some weapon which destroys the enemy without me being involved. You know, I want to tell you on a serious note or semi-serious note that the Navy, we are in the business of killing people. That is what we do. We just think that if we kill them with enough style and enough panache, maybe they won't mind being dead. We never really asked them, but maybe. So, catapult. How about if I had a catapult? How about if I had a device which could throw rocks at the other guy and say, na, 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 damn, boom, gone. Then, what about if I could coat that rock with tar? From the roads, tar, oil, set it on fire, then launch it, like you've seen in so many movies. All this is being done at sea. But you want to put catapult, then the ship has to be able to absorb the catapult. And the ship has to be able to carry the catapult. So the ship has to become larger and larger and larger. Next slide. So you end up with somebody then inventing gunpowder. And now utilizing gunpowder-based naval artillery. Remember, naval artillery is one fancy word. ये जो तोप खड़े हैं ना बाहर हर एक किले में, they are the same. That's one तोप. I can't elevate the top. I can't train it in angle, in azimuth. It's just there. So many people think that when gunpowder came about, it was the West, you know, this wonderful West who fill our internet and our brains with their terminologies. Many people think that all gunpowder-based artillery reached its peak in the famous Battle of Lepanto. And Lepanto is off Greece. An actual fact, this is like so many other things, this is a myth. This is a myth perpetrated by a power or a set of powers which wish to colonize you, which say that all things that come from us are good. You guys, you are really useless. And after some time, everybody tells us that we are useless and we think maybe we are useless here. Therefore, it is important to understand, is this historically correct or not? Let's go to the next slide. This is a slide showing you naval developments in Asia, especially in East Asia, in Korea, in China, in Japan. All these powers, they preceded Western technological development by more than 200 years. Technological development, I'm not talking about history, I'm not talking about Kalidas, I'm not talking about poetry, I'm not talking about the ability to romance a girl or a boy or whichever one you want. I'm talking about technology. We think that we missed the technological revolution. We think. But in actual fact, you will see that if the Battle of Lepanto, if you can go one minus, please, minus. Yeah, so if you look at Lepanto, it was fought in 1571. Next slide, please. This is occurring in 1380. 200 years before that. Lepanto में अभी तक कोई जहाज ही नहीं आया है. There is nothing happening in Lepanto. And yet, throughout Asia, there are developments taking place 100 years ahead, 200 years ahead. What about India? What about India? So our problem in India is that we do not study the history of India. We study the history of Delhi and pretend that that is the history of India. And even when it comes to Indian history, maritime history, duk, zero. Then we say, Pata nahi, there is no serious literature. There is no literature because we have not encouraged anybody to study Pali. Or people who already study Pali. I'm delighted to see that the Pune University has a department of Pali, it has a department of Sanskrit, it has a department. This is why I say Pune University is the natural birthplace of Renaissance of academic thinking in India. If you keep Pune University with the kind of comment which the Honorable Vice Chancellor had to listen to from some person unknown, that Pune is very far from the sea. Excuse me, Delhi is a little further away. I want to tell you that you need to study. All resident knowledge does not lie in Delhi. If you were it's not that if you get transferred from Pune or from Mumbai to Delhi, as you travel in the train, some osmotic process of knowledge induction is taking place. So when you got into the train in Mumbai, you were an idiot, but by the time you reach Meerut, you're brilliant. Aisa thodi hai. If you are an idiot in Bombay, you're an idiot in Delhi also. Except that now your idiocy will affect more people for longer period of time. Therefore, if India wants to be proud of India, don't you want to be proud of India? How many of you play cricket for India? Nobody. But when the Indian team wins, don't we walk like this and don't we look at the other person and say, and where are you from? Australia? Bad luck. We say that, no? Because we are proud of an organization. When we say that I'm from Pune University, and people say, wow, we are from there and you are from? And then you say some other university, which I don't want to say. Next. So, that is what about India. Now let me come back to my subject, because I will keep, wandering off and coming back, simply because if I just told you history, you will be like, one more boring doctor. How to make this different. So, in the absence, remember I told you that the top can't be trained, it can't be elevated, can't be raised, can't be moved around in azimuth. So when you didn't have that ability, that technology hadn't arrived, how to make the ship carry maximized combat power by way of gunpowder delivered artillery. So we got one long pencil. Here's my long ship. Better stand here. Long ship. Okay? I can put a gun here in front so that tu aaya na, bang! Piche se aa rahe ho, bang! Stupid. Only 2 guns. But if I put all the guns here, then I can bring many guns to bear. So that is what was done. In the absence of a mechanism by which guns could be trained, that is rotated in azimuth, or elevated, which is made to rise or be upwards or downwards, then ships could maximize their firepower by fitting guns along the long side, or what was known as the broad side. And that is why all these gunnery officers say broadsides. And that is why when you listen to ballads in English, they will say, and broadsides, then at it they went. Because the ships have come like this, and boom, boom, boom. And you're thinking, oh, Johnny Depp and the Pirates of the Caribbean. Yahi soch rahe ho na? So next. The problem with wooden ships is that when you have a large amount of velocity of the expenditure of your ammunition, then it's going to have a reaction. Newton's laws. So, the displacement of the ship, that means how heavy is the ship? How much water does it displace? That was a function of how stable was the ship when it delivered firepower. So you wanted firepower, you were rich, you could afford to buy all those many guns and many something, and you said, boom, and the only chap who sank was you. And you said, excuse me, when I fire, who is supposed to die, me or the other guy? Because the recoil was too large. So, how do you solve the recoil? Technology. So you said, kya kare? Make a bigger ship. The bigger the ship, the heavier the ship, the more gunpowder it could carry, not gunpowder, the more cannon it could carry, the more firepower it could deliver, and yet absorb the recoil. Next, so the ships had to become bigger. And now you needed all these, by about the 18th century, what was known as this large beamy ship was no longer a galley, it was known as a carrack. And these carracks became bigger and bigger and bigger and carried one row of guns on the bottom, near the waterline, can you see? Then there's one row in the middle of guns. There's one row on the top, the guns. And as these ships became bigger, we started to sacrifice maneuverability. Because now we have hathis. We used to walk like this. Droom, droom, like in those movies about Jurassic Park. We were Tyrannosaurus Rex. Sometimes we were Tyrannosaurus Regina, which is even more dangerous. But we were walking like that. We were big ships, bulky. Next. And as I told you, the way that ships actually could fight was to be brought abreast of each other. One ship alongside the length of the other ship. Many ships had to be maneuvered so that I could bring all my guns to bear against you. सारे के सारे तोप आप पे पड़े हुए हैं और आपके भी सारे तोप मुझ पे पड़े हुए हैं. फिर हम बोलते हैं, okay, fire. Then depends on who fired first, who was better, who was a better shot. One guy reached home, the other guy did glug, 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 glug. In other words, one guy reached home and the other guy did yoga. श्वास अंदर लो, श्वास बाहर छोड़ो, अभी घर जाओ. Next 200 years. So, this arrangement of ships being one after the other and forming one long line, this arrangement became known as the line of battle. It was in this line. Now, who was in this line? What about me with my ship? No use. To be standing in the line, I must be hathi. ये हाथियों की लड़ाई है. इसमें मच्छरों की कोई जगह नहीं है. Right? In other words, this is behemoths are fighting. Big ships. Only therefore, big ships could be admitted in the line. Which line? The line of battle. So ships which could come into that line of battle became known as line of battle ship. And then the words line and off were dropped, and you got battleship. Battleships were therefore the largest ships of a given navy that could stand in line and deliver punishment and take punishment, a bit like Rocky Balboa. You know? Tag, then you wait, and boom, then you wait again and whack again. Right? Next. So, line of battleships. Next. What happened was, by the middle of the 18th century, all major European nations were dividing up their principal warships into what were called rates, or divisions according to the number of guns that were carried. How many guns did you carry? So, first-rate ship, more than 100 guns, or more than 110 guns on a single ship. Then you had to have a ship which was that large, which was that wide, so that when those 110 guns fired at one go, or at least 55 of those guns fired in one go, your ship didn't capsize. Remember I told you recoil, Newton's law? That Newton, if he had not come along, we would all be flying. But that apple fell, we were doomed. Now, first rate. So second-rate gun, second-rate ship, somewhere between 90 and 100 guns. Third rate, 70 to 84 guns. This is the third rate. So when in the old days naval sailors were not called sailors, they were called ratings. Because they were allowed to go on so-and-so ship, because that was the ship that the captain of that ship was an experienced chap. He got more money. And he was a first-rate fellow. And this other chap, some chap like me, third-rate fellow. That's how these terminologies have come into being in our normal English. First rate, second rate, third rate. So, there was also fourth rate. There were fifth rates. And all these ships had sails that were square to the line of the ship. So if that was the front part of the ship, this is the back part of the ship, the sail was like this. If the sail was like this, then the ship could move only if the wind was from behind. If the wind was in front, you start going backwards. So, next. So we had these long lines. And in these long lines, we had hundreds and hundreds of guns. And one guy would fire, and there would be smoke. And I wanted to tell my ships, see, what was my trick? Can I leave the podium? What was my trick? My trick was this. My guns are all along my long side. Yes? Your guns are also along your long side. Suppose I can bring my ship so that it turns and my long side guns are facing only your one gun in front. You are doomed. No? And therefore, I had to tell my ships at some point, turn and face and give my orders. How to give the orders, yeah? The blinking line was 2 miles away. No radio, no internet, no mobile phone, no. So you had to fly flags. And when you flew flags, they say, okay, turn. But the guy on the fourth ship couldn't see the flag. And he's saying, kya, kya? And the guy next to him getting tapli, saying, padna nahi aata. And he's saying, nahi aata, kya kare? It's so far away. So the ship's long line was divided up into different admirals were told, take charge of a different segment of that line. Right? In school, you have a captain of a team, then you have a vice captain of a team. No? Just like that, you have an admiral, and then you have a vice admiral. And then, bringing up the rear of the squadrons, you had a rear admiral. So there was the admiral in the front, because you had to go chhati taan ke, Otherwise, if you didn't die, the other chap could never become an admiral. So if not nothing else, you had to, hurry up and get on with it. Then in the middle, you needed the vice admiral. So the first guy flew a big red flag to say, me, this is me. I'm like the captain of a team with a yellow armband. So I'm the admiral of the red. Then there was the admiral of the blue. And there was the admiral of the white in the middle. And this color combination persisted till date, except that it changed so that the red became assigned to the merchant marine, the white became assigned to the fighting ships, and the blue became assigned to auxiliaries. Next. Right. So now we have the admirals of the red, the admirals of the white, the admirals of the blue, and they're banging away at each other. Next. So let's now talk about battleships. Now this is what battleships look like. And when battleships came about, next. Another thing, many people think, ye tumhara jahaz jo hai na, how old is it? How old, huh? How old? Really? That old? It's old, yaar. But that's not how ships are gauged. The age of a ship is measured from the time that the first eye-bar was put, which is the keel of the ship. But in the meantime, the ship keeps undergoing repair, replenishment. All the steel changes, all the cabling changes, the weapons change, the sensors change. So if you get a good ship, which has got a good refit done, just like a good car, many Parsis own cars, which are pretty old, yeah? But they're the best cars. Nothing ever happens to them. And if he's saying, wants to sell car, and you say, Parsi owner, you'll buy. No? Because the ship has gone through, that particular vehicle has gone through good refits. It is getting younger every time. Not older, younger. So if you are fixated upon ships being khilona, toy, then you want, mummy, uska pappu ke paas naya toy hai, mere ko bhi chahiye. But if you are looking at what ship, then you have to see how well is it been refitted. Next. So, sorry, one minus, please. So, and as a result, I want to tell you that in the first Gulf War of 1991, the finest, latest state-of-the-art missile in the world was the Tomahawk missile. They were delivered by ships which were approximately 90 years old. 90. Therefore, the ship, its firepower, its weaponry, its combat capability is not to be gauged only by seeing how old is it. Next. So, now you've got these big ships, okay? Hathi. Then, Navy started to think, what to do here? Because these ships had these big guns, right? Big. And those big guns needed to be depressed and elevated. And you could do all that. Now, technology had arrived. So I built swarm tactics of lots of little mosquitoes, machhar, and sent machhar jao yaar, 100 ki sankhya mein jao. Go under the maximum depression of the gun. Keep going, keep zigzagging. This chap is trying to figure out where are you, and he can destroy any one of them will destroy 4 of you. But suppose you got 44, then 40 of you will get through. Then what to do? So then, maximum depression angle, and then you launch torpedoes. And therefore, these boats, which were meant to destroy battleships, were called torpedo boats. Now, you who had all these hathis, you were in grief. What to do with my hathis? They're getting killed by these mosquitoes. So what do? You buy some anti-mosquito something, no? Next. So the torpedo boat, now you needed some other equally fast machhar of your own. Mera machhar. तुम्हारे मच्छर से ज़्यादा है. मेरी कमीज तुम्हारी कमीज से ज़्यादा सफ़ेद है. So you created torpedo boat destroyers. And the battleship would wait and see, oh, they're launching, we'll also launch ours. So there would be machhar to machhar fight. Now, the torpedo boat destroyer was launched in this manner. Why is it called destroyer? Because it was meant to destroy the torpedo boat. What was the torpedo boat meant to destroy? The battleship. Next. So now, the torpedo boat destroyer became bigger and bigger and bigger, simply because we wanted to have same speed, maneuverability, combat power. Same arguments are being driven. And therefore, we started having larger and larger destroyers. Torpedo boat destroyer, they dropped the word torpedo boat and just had large destroyers. Next. And that's where we get the word destroyer. This is a picture of a contemporary Indian naval destroyer called the INS Chennai. Chennai is armed with massive amounts of weaponry. So when people ask us, Ashish, these Chinese, no? So when you have a fight with the Chinese, will you win or will they win? We don't really know. But we rather think that if it was 1-to-1, ship to ship, we will win. At least I'll bet my money on our ships. Not because they've got better firepower alone, but because that other chap, that human being, his training, his capability, his innovative ability is superior, we think. Next. So contemporary destroyers now displace as much as old battleships did, 12,000 tons. They are not small. These are huge vessels. That's how you get the word destroyer. Next. Then you have a new kind, the cruiser. So the cruiser was meant to be how to make a ship that is not so big that it requires to fight in the line of battle, not so small that it can get destroyed, but thoda madhyantar mein, medium. So you created a ship that could cruise the seas. And it was principally designed to destroy merchant shipping. That's what its destruction power was for. So it would stay for long periods of time, destroying merchant shipping, and then wait if it chanced upon the enemy battleships. The enemy's line of battle was sighted, then these ships would have enough power, enough combat power to hold the enemy at bay. That means ladai karo and itni kabiliyat dikhao ki wo ruke apni jagah pe, sthir rahe, while you told your battle fleet, come here, baby, this is where the battle is. And then you kept the enemy at bay until your own hathis arrived and you destroyed it. This was the concept of the cruiser. Next. So cruisers were powerful and capable of sweeping large oceanic spaces on their own, and they were used for trade warfare. That means warfare against mercantile marine and mercantile trade. And they were meant to engage the enemy's fleet until one's own battleships could arrive on the scene. Next. Cruisers continue to be used even today. They are larger than destroyers. They are still doing the same thing. They are all alone. We are cruisers, and they have special insignia shapes. You know, a cruiser will always have a shield-shaped, pentagon-shaped crest. The point I'm going to make is that this is how the term cruiser came about. So how many types have we gone down now? Battleship. We did torpedo boat, destroyer. Torpedo boat, then destroyer. Now cruiser. Next. Then we have frigates. So the frigate is a smaller ship than a cruiser, a smaller ship than a destroyer, and it was used, its name is derived from the fregata, And it was meant for close coast sailing. Now you are in India. And in India, the blinking some Veda or the other has been written, ke, samundar mein jaoge, jaat kho jaoge. Stuck, doomed. Now we are stuck with, I'll give you word association, beach, and you'll say Bhelpuri. And then your mummy will say, udhar nahi jana, udhar lehrein hain. तो लहरें नहीं होंगी तो और क्या होगा? डर गए हम. Frigates. So frigates were ships designed for relatively closer coast sailing. Why? Because the further you go away, the farther you go away from the coast, the rougher the sea, the more tumultuous. So you better have a large ship. Otherwise, like a small peanut shell, you will capsize. Next. And as I told you, frigates were the ones which were, in the old days also, 5th rate and 6th rate. Next. Never mind the rest of the Angrezi. Now that we've covered all that, there are many kinds of car. No, let's take a car. There's so many types of car here. There is a sports car, a sedan, there is a coupe, there's a hatchback, there's a convertible, there's a sports car, there's a limousine, like that. There are many variants of each of the types that I mentioned. Types. Frigate, type. Cruiser, type. Battleship, type. Next. So in same way, you can have a vessel, a ship, which is a frigate, which is designed for one thing, optimized for one thing. Can do many things, but optimized for anti-aircraft weaponry, warfare. So Hawai Jahaz uda nahi to psh. Of course, the Hawai Jahaz has his own view on this whole matter. Next. Or you might have a ballistic missile defense frigate designed for vertically arriving missiles. Next. Or you might have an anti-submarine warfare frigate optimized for anti-submarine warfare. Next. Or you might have general purpose frigate for sab kuch, thoda bahut, little bit of everything. Jack of all trades, master of none. Next. And now, this is an example of the Brahmaputra class frigate of the Indian Navy. This is a ship that I commissioned and commanded. I'm very proud of it. She's quite a ship. This is the point in time in which you clap your hands and say, ooh. Kya? Tali maro. All right, let's go to, not deserving a clap? Deserves, yeah, thank you. Next. So then we have a smaller ship than that. This is called a corvette. A corvette is French, but it is derived from the Dutch word corver, which means a chase ship. It is capable of chasing you. Why does it want to chase you? It will chase you until you are vulnerable to a larger ship which can destroy you. If you have got many ships in the meantime, we'll wait. We will chase you until you come upon cruisers. Then we will wait until our battleships come along. Then we'll see. Next. Modern corvettes, even today, a corvette is a light frigate, and like other larger frigates, many navies possess missile corvettes. This is the corvette INS Khanjar. Next. You can also have corvettes specialized in one thing. So this is an anti-submarine warfare corvette. Still talking type, not talking class yet. Next. Amphibious ship. This is really important because this is a ship which is designed to go ashore, beach. It is designed to run aground, but it is deliberate, so it is called beaching. And when it is running aground because of navigational error, that is called grounding. Next. Amphibious ships can be large. This photograph is that of INS Jalashwa. INS stands for Indian Naval Ship. It's almost like a helicopter carrier. Next. These are landing ships, tank large. That means this is a big landing ship. It can carry heavy tanks. Not the one you've got outside, but the heavy battle tanks. Right. So General Chavan would be, I'm sure, happy to explain this variants of tanks and infantry combat vehicles later on. Next. And you can range all the way from those big fellows to these small, cute chaps. Remember, they are like piranhas. They are not cute. They're just small. So they can carry wheeled vehicles, but not tanks. Yes, and you can go next to even smaller vehicles then they can carry only troops. All of these are part and parcel of amphibious ships. Next. But they also include hovercraft, big hovercraft, small hovercraft, medium-sized hovercraft. Do you think hovercraft can solve all problems? No. Suppose I shoot the skirt. It's the same as shooting the skirt. You sit down. Next. Let me talk to you about aircraft carriers for 2 minutes. Lots of conversation about aircraft carriers. Do we need it? Can we afford it? Should we have more ships rather than aircraft carriers? Next. This is Vikramaditya. So, I'm sorry you can't see this slide very well. There are various kinds of aircraft carriers. Some are large and they carry hundreds of aircraft. There's a rule of thumb. It says for every 1 ton of displacement of an aircraft carrier, 1 aircraft. So if you have INS Virat, 30,000, 28,000 tons weight, displacement, 28 aircraft, maybe 30 aircraft. Vikramaditya, 45,000 tons, maybe it will carry 40 aircraft. It's a rule of thumb, it's not exact. The USS Enterprise or the Gerald E. Ford, 140,000 ton weight displacement. They'll carry 110 to 140 aircraft. That is more than many countries' air force. So why do they carry so many aircraft? Because they are designed to attack targets on the shore. If a target is worth attacking, it must be worth defending also. Hai? And if it is worth defending, when you launch a strike of aircraft, all the advantages are lying with the defender. You, as the attacker, have zero advantage. Because you are flying from a long distance, your fuel is being consumed on the way. You don't have enough fuel for combat. Second, your fighter controllers, your ship radars are on the ship. You are 300 miles away. His are right there. He has electronic warfare or electronic support measures to suppress you. You need other aircraft to suppress that. So your strike package, the number of aircraft in your package keeps rising. And when it becomes large enough, you say that we need a big ship. And that's how you reach big ships. So what do? Do we want to have ships like that? Yep. Why don't we have them? You don't pay your taxes. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough dockyards. So we build what are called fleet carriers. Fleet carriers are designed to protect the fleet. And it is a mistake to think that the fleet protects the carrier. It is, first of all, a mistake to talk about an aircraft carrier as a single platform. It is a system. Just like you cannot talk about a tank and say, we'll talk about the tank's vulnerability of the chassis separately and the turret separately. You can't say that? Same way. So the Indian aircraft carriers are designed to protect the fleet, and the fleet is designed to protect the carrier, and together they form a weapon system. Next. Now we come to class of ship. So class is like this. The first ship of a given type in a given series is called something. Say, for example, Swift Desire. Then every car of that type will be Swift Desire. Even though you called your car Bunty, she called her car Bubbly, something. But they are all Swift Desires. No? The first ship of a given series within a type gives its name to all other ships of that class. But all ships have a name of their own also. So you will have, say for example, the Nilgiri class means the first ship of that series, of that type, whatever Nilgiri was, will be called Nilgiri. And every ship of that series which comes out after that will be the Nilgiri class. But one ship will be called Nilgiri, another ship will be called Himgiri. So it's Himgiri, but Nilgiri class. Similarly, exactly as you drive a car, exactly as you buy a music system, for one given series, it will have one name. But your own one might be called something else. No? This is Bittu the Gaddi. Delhi is full of Bittu the Gaddis. Sometimes I think that Bittu the Gaddi is also a class. But next. So the first ship of that series, of that type, is called a class. What is a project? Now, a project is simply some file number which is done while making a project in naval headquarters. Project has no other meaning. But newspaper and anchors of TV channels don't always remember this. So we say, Project 15 Bravo. That means there was some file in naval headquarters. That file related to a project of building ships. Just like you can have a project of making Pune a smart city. So smart city project. No? Like that, you can have a project which will have some number, some alphabet associated with it. So there will be some alphanumeric, and then it will be called Project 17. Project 17 doesn't mean anything more than a file. It was the name and number given to a file so that I can make out kaun si file nikalu. And he said, Project 17 ki file nikalo. So then I know Project 15 ki file nahi chahiye isko, Project 17 ki file chahiye. Us project mein kitne jahaz hain? What are the names of those ships? What type of ships are there? What are the classes in that ship? Is inside the file. So when we colloquially say things, we sometimes say project, but it just means that. So when we talk in real world, there are only two terms we use. What type? What is the ship type? What is the ship class? Next. Next. So when ships began to use sail power, as I said, the sails were square to the ship's fore and aft line. And that's why naval officers will call the washroom the heads. Why? Because you wanted to go to the toilet, no? If you went to the toilet behind, then the wind will blow. Ah! So you went to the forward part, which is called the head of the ship. You went to the head, and today also, a naval officer will always say, I want to go to the heads. Right. This is a picture of the INS Tarangini, a full-sail vessel leading a sailboat, a sailing ship race in the USA. Next. Now, technology moves along, and we have new propulsion packages. Now we have turbines. We have gas. Then somebody says, hey, gas, where's all fossil fuel? You're messing up my planet. And so we will go back to sail, or we'll go back to hydrogen, or we'll create hydrogen cells. And maybe that will work. But remember, the warship was designed for speed, maneuverability, and combat power. So we need a ship which will go from 0 to 40 knots to 0 in one go. Solar panel won't do. Hydrogen cell will not do. But for the merchant marine, will that do? Perfectly. Next. Therefore, you can have combinations. You can put steel paddles, steam paddles. Next. And I want to show you this picture. Can you see the picture? All those green things. You know what they are? They are sails. But they are not canvas sails. They are smart material sails. This is an actual ship. This is not some figment of somebody's imagination. This is a ship which is being designed to sail using wind power, and all that gray part, the green part of those sails are not only smart materials, they are also photovoltaic cells. So guys, we want to move, and we say, all right, so this admiral is finally, dawn has hit the rock, and now he's going to tell us, we can go for electric propulsion. Can you imagine all of Pune's traffic on the road, electric cars, electric buses, electric trucks? It's a disaster. You know why? All electric vehicles at the moment require batteries. How many types of batteries are there? 2 types. What are they? Nickel-cadmium batteries, lithium-ion batteries. What do they have in common? Cobalt. They need cobalt. And we don't have cobalt. And who has the cobalt? The Democratic Republic of Congo. So there is geopolitical race going on for Democratic Republic of Congo, who is happily sitting, doing nothing, crochet kar raha tha. Suddenly, and then, bigger push, saying, India, You're too late. China is defeating you in terms of its access to Democratic Republic of Congo. But we need electricity. So let's go deep sea bed mining. Now we have to balance. Deep sea bed mining for cobalt, for the electric battery. Why did we want the electric battery in the first place? Because we didn't want to mess up our environment. But if we messed up our environment in order to get this, then we have to think. And therefore, there are two kinds of think tanks in India. There are those that think, and there are those that tank. And if the National Maritime Foundation will not think, India will tank. Therefore, we are required to think. Think. Not jump at the first thing that is possible. Not jump at the first answer to a problem. Because in all those problems lie other problems. All of them. Remember what I've said about electric batteries. I'm not even talking about the logistic chain of how to fill the battery, how to charge the battery, what will be the line. CNG ki to line aap logon ne dekhi hogi. What about battery lines? How long? No, I'm not talking about any of that. Today, your mobile phone, your watch, your clock, they all use cobalt. But they use it in micrograms. When you start saying that India's transport sector will switch to batteries, then you are talking about thousands of kilograms. And where is that going to come from? Next. So what kind of a navy do we have now? This is called the order of battle of the Indian Navy. We are today a powerful navy. We are the 4th or 7th most powerful navy in the world, but it depends on how you define power. Is it, in North India they say, ganna, you know, ganna, which is here sold as ganna. There it is ganderiyan. So there's an old Punjabi folk song saying, Chicho chich ganderiyan, do teriyan, do meriyan. So are we fighting about how many do you have, how many do I have? No, that's not the answer. How capable is yours? How capable is my ship? How good? Not ship, the people. How good are they? So do you think this is classified information? This is not classified information. Classified information is when I tell you how well does that ship fight? How good are its people? Which university trained them? Which think tank did they go through? How much of the lore of the sea, how much of that goes through their veins? That determines it. How competent? Next. So we have aircraft, we have a large fleet air arm, and we have aircraft at sea simply because air power at sea is required here and now. And any country can provide shore-based air power here by air-to-air refueling, vagara, vagara. But now, the ship needs the aircraft now. Therefore, navies of competence will have this. Now people say, but not all navies have aircraft carriers, sir. What about navies which don't have aircraft carriers? Unka kya hai? Nah? So many navies don't have any aircraft carrier. They have more frigates, more destroyers, more corvettes, more. There are only two answers to this. Number one answer, don't have aircraft carrier, no integral air power. I'm not saying who should fly the air power. I'm just talking about no integral air power. You have only two choices, three choices. First choice, stay close to your coast so that your Air Force can give you, or your shore-based air power can give you the support, whether it is Air Force or not. But if you want to be a regional power, you can't do that by sitting next to, Alibag. You have to go 600, 700, 2,000 miles away. Then where will it come from? So you can't go there because you don't have air power. Second option, make sure that you only operate in some other distant location in which you will get this. In other words, stay under the protective umbrella of shore-based air power is one option. Of course, there's always another option, and that is go and get killed. That is also a good option. Sometimes, just say, हम जा रहे हैं जौहर, किले के दरवाजे खोले, हम धड़ाक करके, Hindi movie will be made, but you will be dead. So you decide, is your aim in life to have a navy which will make a Hindi movie? Or is your aim in life different? Next. So when we talk about balance of the Navy's force, we have how many ships of ours should be devoted to coastal waters, how many ships of ours should go to distant waters and be capable of operating in distant blue waters. In 2009, what happened in 2009? Kasab, Ajmal Kasab and his Saheliyan arrived here. No? We immediately swapped. Government said, coast, protect your coast. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Navies do not protect their coast by holding hands on the coast and singing, "Hum honge kamyab." You protect India's coast by patrolling off the other guy's coast, not by patrolling off your coast. That's how you protect your country. So, but our force mix was wrong. Now it is 2021. Next slide. So in 2021, we have reversed this. Now we have 65% of our ships capable of taking the fight to the enemy, not being defensively stuck in your own areas. Is this different for the army? No, it's the same. We stand on where we think the Chinese border is, and the Chinese stand on where they think the Indian border is. If both the lines are the same, then you are just on your border. If they are different, then we come to where we are. Next. And so, surface ships cannot be deployed, as I mentioned to you earlier. Don't worry about the slide. Listen to me. Surface ships cannot be deployed and survive. We don't sail ships after the war has started. We sail ships many weeks before a war starts. Then how do we know when the war is starting? We don't know. We guess. How do we guess? We study. We see what is going on. Have the foreign ministers stop talking to each other. Has one woman spat at the other woman and says, "Ja mar." Has that happened? Should we then worry? And as we gauge, who is the we? Air Marshal Gokhale, General Chavan, Admiral Chauhan, all these people, that's why they get paid. Admiral Sharma, they get paid for this, for doing net assessment of what is the situation. And we sail for months in advance, for weeks in advance. Now, we sail because we think our government, हमारी सरकार ने कहा हुआ है कि 16th of September को you are free to fight. And that we call preemptive authority. But how do we know what the other chap's government told him? Suppose his government told him 15 तारीख को दे. Demand. Then your preemptive has been preempted. That is why you must be very careful about who you promote to become admirals. Choose carefully. If you get it wrong, the costs are very large. So when ships sail, they need to poise. They can poise in theater because they have endurance. Unlike other forces, ships carry all the weaponry that they need, all the food, all the fuel. A ship, when it is told to sail, it might be told to sail for delivering food grain to Maputo, but it is simultaneously ready for war at the same time. So notice to steam or motoring and notice to war is the same. How to build a navy like that? That, of course, is the trick. Next. And I think this is my last slide. Right, next. What I wanted to show you here in this presentation was not to tell you, okay, now you can take notes and now you can go through, the first module of Defense and Security Studies, Maritime. No, it's to tell you that, hi, there's a maritime world out there which we need to master. And we don't know enough. And so how to make it happen, how to bring about young chaps who will look at me and say, so tell me about this new class of ship that you've got. And he actually knows what he's saying and doesn't mean that what type of ship you've got. He means class. And then I look at him and say, India, we have a chance, baby. We have a chance. Pune University, rise to this occasion. Rise. That's the best that I can hope from the MOU, the best I can hope from the university. And with that, I will stop my long-winded diatribe. I hope you enjoyed some part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Question, answer, comment?
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for your very interesting and engaging lecture. And now we proceed ahead for the question and answer session. So the floor is open for it.
Like in every other session, we can do it in two ways. One, we can ask each other an answer, and the other is we can stare at each other balefully. Choose. Please feel free. Yeah.
Before going to ask question, introduce yourself.
Induction. Your slide showed that there are 2 more aircraft carriers under production / induction. However, there's a lot of dilly-dallying regarding the 3rd aircraft carrier. So what is your take on the requirement of 3rd aircraft carrier for India?
That's a simple answer. It is completely mandatory. It is an existential problem. The 4th aircraft carrier, the 5th aircraft carrier, the 7th aircraft carrier, we can debate. But the first 3, you either have these 3, or you can, as I told you, you have another choice. You always have another choice. But the choice that you have, remember again what I'm telling you. 200 years, you need maritime power in all its manifestations. Not just in military, but not excluding military either. So do we need a 3rd aircraft carrier, and why? Because at any given point in time, if you wanted to have an aircraft carrier on either seaboard, one aircraft carrier at any time will be under refit. How much does it cost? Huge money. Then, can we afford huge money? What should we do? How much does a strike core cost? Can we do without a strike core? Suppose we can buy 15 billion blackboards and dig 2,000 million tube wells. Is that okay? Does war take place on comparative cost? Can I go to the Pakistanis and say, my tank costs $50, your tank costs $60, 10 रुपए का फर्क है, तो 5 रुपए तू रख ले, 5 रुपए मैं रख लूँ. Can war be fought like that? Consequently, affordability does not always necessitate that you get the carrier. No. You have other choices. Enter into an alliance, say, I will do the mine countermeasures, you please bring the aircraft carrier. But that requires an alliance compulsion, and that brings with it its own complications. India has chosen that we will not enter into an alliance. Then your army, your navy, and your air force have to be all-encompassing. Otherwise, Air Force could have told somebody, you provide the air-to-air refuelers. You provide the AWACS. They could have said that. But we can't, because our country's policy is no alliance. Now you have only 2 more choices left. Get the damned aircraft carrier, get the aircraft carrier. Die. Die is always an option. Heroically die, but die. No, you will be able to survive. Dominate? 6 aircraft carriers, 7 aircraft carriers, like that. That is dominate. But domination is not always based only upon the platform. As I said, one of the problem areas in these various institutions is that when we study Israel, you study Israel? When you study Israel, which Israel do you study? You study an Israel which came after 1972, when it was a technological power. What about the Israel which was there between 1948 and 1971, when Israel was the weaker technological power, when the Soviets had given every one of the 7 Arab nations whom Israel fought against technology, weapons, sensor? How did Israel win? That is what we should study. How to create asymmetrical warfare, not how to create symmetrical warfare. That you don't need to study. That is just bean count. Good question. Okay. Anybody else would like to say anything?
Please use a mic while asking questions.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for this amazingly entertaining lecture. You've really made naval history quite a fun subject to grasp. My name is Ameya Kelkar. I'm a student of the Global Peace, Security and Strategic Studies program at the department. My question is regarding, sir, the future of naval capabilities worldwide. Now, this might be a pretty weird question to ask, but to what extent do you see innovation in, say, the plastics industry? To what extent do you see playing that being a game changer in naval capabilities of any nation, sir? Be it India, China, America, whichever country.
So it's a very good question, first of all. The answer is not limited to plastics, but to the adoption of materials. In study of materials, you're always looking for three things. One, you are always looking for the lightest conceivable weight. You're also always looking for the maximum strength of the material against a variety of impacts. Third is that we are, in any navy, anywhere in the world, what is the largest enemy of a navy in peace? Not politicians, it is corrosion. You are taking a metal and you are putting it in brine. Any 5th standard science student should be able to tell you, dimag bilkul hi kharab hai tumhara. Because you are taking metal and putting it in brine. Therefore, our effort is continuously on A, how to tackle corrosion, how to have lightweight material, and how to yet have it being resilient. So I want to tell you another feature which stems from your very good question. And that is this, that in the world of commerce and industry, there is a term called redundancy. So I have got 2 of it, 3 of them, whatever the them is. Warships shouldn't have the same degree of importance to redundancy, because if I am building a ship and that is designed to deliver punishment, Mr. Kelkar, then the other chap is also making a ship which is designed to deliver punishment. All this punishment which is being dished out with such gay abandon, where is it going? Who is absorbing this punishment? So when I absorb a punishment, then I don't need degrade. I don't need redundancy. I certainly cannot handle reliability. Reliability is simply the largest possible mean time between failures, correct? What I need is a decent, graceful degradation path. When you hit me, what happens next? I need materials that can do that. Let's give you another example. We make ships now, as you know, with conformal radars, which means that radar is built into the superstructure. Let me give you an example of an aircraft carrier. Peacetime, not such a big problem. Wartime, aircraft comes in, doesn't manage the landing correctly, collapses on deck, does 3 somersaults, bangs into your superstructure. You lost the aircraft, you lost the pilot, and you lost your radar. How is this to be handled? Which materials are to be used? Where should they be placed? So, if that is the area of your thrust of your question, that is one type of thing. Then you have pollution and plastic pollution. And if you think that's not a problem, let me tell you how it is. We have nuclear-powered submarines. One fine day, one of our nuclear-powered submarines found that its sonar, the sound, the way that underwater detection is made, sound-based navigation and ranging, the sonar was giving really poor ranges. I said, why is that, yeah? Why is the sonar? Yes, tests and built-in test equipment was brought into play. Then we found that the sonar had got covered by snapping shrimp. And snapping shrimp had come because the algae in that area had grown to a point where the snapping shrimp were eating the algae was sitting on the sonar surface, and the snapping shrimp were there. When we talk about Noctiluca, which is a Noctiluca scintillans is the correct term if any of you are bio students or study pollution. Noctiluca scintillans covers the oceans of the Arabian Sea, of India, with this brilliant blue luminescent color, which these photographers take, and you get, really good looking screensavers on your computer. But for us, can you imagine a submarine which pushes its periscope out and gets coated by a film of luminous blue paint? You might as well make an announcement that I'm here. Does pollution, therefore, affect military naval operations? Yes. In every respect, yes. Can these two questions be correlated as you have suggested? Yes. So when we have materials which are less amenable to that kind of pollution, maybe that's the way to go. Much to think about, no? But very good question. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just get a mic.
My question is, when India will get his first admiral of the fleet? Any idea?
To get an admiral of the fleet, India will have to engage in maritime conflict at a major level. Let me explain something to you once again, or for the first time. We have a concept in military operations called the concept of maneuver. And there's another concept called attrition. Attrition is what I told you about battleships, Bang, me, my turn, bang, your turn, bang. So you are pitting in attrition, you are pitting strength against strength. Where the enemy is strongest, you are strongest. Maneuver is that you are playing like Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. So you are dancing, you are weaving, you are bobbing. That means I am hitting you where you are weakest. You are trying to do the same. Now we are engaged in maneuver. The principle of maneuver is widely accepted by India. There's nobody who opposes the principle of maneuver. But maneuver takes place where? If it takes place within a small area controlled by an army corps, CORPS, a corps, then that is one type of maneuver. If we want to utilize all three services, then we must be able to take the concept of maneuver and put it into theater, which means you have to start understanding what is theater. Naval officers have to start understanding what is Demchok, what is Depsang, what is Daulat Beg Oldi, where is it, where is Galwan, where is... Army officers have to start understanding where is Ombai Vetar. Today if I tell you Ombai Vetar, 90% of people say same to you. Same to you? Remember, two armies don't go to war. Two air forces don't go to war. Two nations go to war. When two nations, when the government of India, if the government of India comes to the conclusion that this is not some army skirmish on the Trans-Himalayan border, this is not some air-land or land-air battle, but the Republic of India is in a state of armed conflict with the People's Republic of China, then we will utilize every instrument of our national power, which will include the Navy. Hopefully, all these lessons would have sunk home to a number of people, and this is only the first lesson, so that we have a maritime bent of mind, not only of the people, but of the government. We will win the war at sea. You will have your admiral of the fleet. But you have other choices also. And like I said all the time, there are always choices. Does that answer your question? So admirals of the fleet, marshals of the Air Force, field marshals are not honorific ranks given to some chap or the other so that his uniform looks better. It is given as a mark of great respect for someone who led his service and won substantial victory for India. The fact that we have Marshal of the Air Force, Arjun Singh, is a matter of great pride for the Air Force. It's a matter of great pride for the Army. Is it not a matter of great pride for the Navy? Of course it is. Are we not proud of our Air Force? Of course we are. So to bring in a excessively parochial thing, say, मेरे पास एक Air Marshal है, तुम्हारे पास नहीं है, या एक Marshal of the Air Force है तुम्हारे, थोड़ा बचपना we must leave behind in बचपना. But the real question and the real answer to your rather good question is what I said. Then you think about that. So the question becomes like this. This is my question to all of you. What are the combination of circumstances or happenstances that will convince the government of India that we are indeed in a state of armed conflict? What is that combination? Suppose you are a dove. You don't want war. Then you must answer this question so that you can avoid that combination of circumstances. Suppose you're a hawk. You want war. Then you must know the answer to this question so that you can engineer those circumstances. But if you don't know the answer, you will just blunder into war. And that is a very bad way to create any kind of field rank. Sir. Yes, sir.
Student. May I, sir?
One for the youngster. Then don't go away.
Absolutely, sir.
Jai Hind and good evening all. I am Cadet Bhavya Advait, Division 5 Ferguson College, 3 Maharashtra Naval Unit. So my doubt was, or question was, just like you mentioned in one of the slides, is that cruisers, the main role of cruisers is that to create a blockade of merchant shipping. So as what I am recalling that in Op Vijay, in Kargil War 1999, Indian Navy's role was to create a blockade of merchant shipping, providing ammunition and other stuff to Pakistan via the sea route. So keeping that situation in mind and keeping the South China Sea aggression in mind, and at the time of Galwan Valley, why doesn't Indian Navy has cruisers in its fleet?
Yeah, we can have. I'm not in any hurry. You guys are.
One more question.
Yeah, please ask your question and I'll answer both of them in succession.
Hello. Sir, I'm Colonel Unnikrishnan. I'm in my second year of my Master's in Defense and Strategic Studies. So I possibly would be speaking on behalf of all my students, my course-mates here. This particular statement that you made when we said that we don't know the strength vis-a-vis China and India and what will happen if we go to war with regard to the maritime strength that we have. And there's this particular, we all read up this particular, I think, article which said that by 2050, China will have the largest navy in the world, surpassing even that of the US. Now, with our friends, so-called friends being US, Japan, Australia, etc. in the Quad, and they also have said that they aren't really, this is not a really a strategic or a defense alliance. So if it comes to war, and like you said, for the next 100, 200 years, if India has to be a power, it has to have maritime strength. And if it comes to war, and I am very sure that US won't be there, they'll be the first to browbeat and run away. So where does that leave us from the point of view with strength, with regard to what the first question that he asked as to 6, 7, I'm not even talking about aircraft carriers here. I'm simply asking you, how do we get to this that we could possibly avoid even, a vague statement like, let's see what happens when we go to war. Thank you, sir.
So I take the chastisement correctly, the last comment. But I want to tell you how we play. No nation, no armed force plays solely at the operational or tactical level. Armed forces play at all levels. Strategic, military strategic, operational, and of course tactical. So let's take that as the first point. Do you agree with that? Okay. And I'll come to your question in a minute. So when we are the weaker power, which you are quite correctly indicating, what is our aim? Our aim is to make sure, A, that we can buy time. This is the first aim. We must buy time in which to strengthen ourselves. The corollary to that is, if you bought time in whatever fashion, what did you do with the time you bought? But that's a separate discussion. the second aim is that China should not be able to bring the entire orbit of Chinese naval power to bear against us. This must not happen. No? Therefore, the Indian strategic military approach must, not army, not navy, not air force, India, must necessarily be the following. 1, the South China Sea must continue to simmer, but it should not boil over. China must not be able to remove its focus from the Pacific and concentrate its focus upon the Indian Ocean. Therefore, Australia, China, USA, Japan, South Korea, the most important of all is the USA must remain. It doesn't have to be on my side. It doesn't have to buttress me with fighting capability. But it must stay in the South Pacific, or in the Eastern Pacific, or in the Western Pacific. It must stay. It must present an inability of China to simply move all forces against India. This is strategic play. Second, if China has to bring submarine forces into the Indian Ocean, those submarines can only transit underwater in one strait. There's only one strait. It can't come through Malacca. No submarine can come through Malacca except on the surface. No submarine can come through the Strait of Lombok except on the surface. No submarine can come through the Strait of Sunda except on the surface. If you wanted to bring a submarine on the surface, why did you buy a submarine here? Therefore, Chinese submarines, Indian submarines, American submarines, Russian submarines, French nuclear-powered submarines. I'm not talking about SSKs, but nuclear-powered submarines have to go through underwater transit, have to use the Strait of Mumbai-Wetar. Therefore, at the military strategic level, if we meet an Indonesian, we must be able to say, I'll marry you. We'll worry about his gender later on. He's that important to us. And therefore, naval strategic Indian, military strategic Indian, diplomatic strategic effort is played at the strategic table. If you lose at the strategic table, sir, then whatever prowess you might have at the operational table or at the table of tactics is useless. Once you have won there, once you are able to ensure that China cannot bring this orbit to bear against us, then the limited orbit and our ability to detect, monitor, track China, we have power to do this. Third point. What is India's greatest core national sensitivity in a conflict with Pakistan? Violation of Indian territory? Well, Bharat maa ka balatkar, khoon kholega, hum ladenge. Correct? What is Pakistan's greatest sensitivity in a conflict with India? Same. Correct? What is India's greatest sensitivity in a conflict with China? Same. Violation of Indian territory. That's what we are doing now. What is China's greatest sensitivity in a conflict with India? Suppose I said, the answer is face. China greatest sensitivity is face. Now you will say, sir, how do you know? And my answer is, I don't know. So I look at Savitribai Pune University and say, you got a department of anthropological sociology? What are they writing on? Have they any PhD thesis on face? So you would do, and we would do, exceedingly well to study this. Because if the answer is face, that means face will cause Chinese behavior to change in a manner that we want it to behave, in a manner that we want. Aren't you using face now? In your military planning at the level of operational art, isn't the Indian Army utilizing face as the main thrust area when we're dealing with China? But how do you know it's true? How do you know it's not just Admiral Chauhan's fevered imagination at work? You don't know. Because the theory is missing. We have theory from USA. We have theory from Taiwan. But we have no theory in India. These are strategic flaws that we must be able to correct, and we are not correcting them. We are going into bean counting. But even at bean counting, even at that, what I said to you is correct. This is what we must make sure. In order to while we make sure about that, what advantage accrues to me? Time. Time. I get time. And now you have to decide, as I told you in the beginning, what are you doing with the time that you got? That only you can answer and I can answer. Now to your question about blockade. What I said was, blockade is a specific defined act of war. We are talking about trade warfare, in which blockade is one element. Trade warfare is the ability to address the enemy's mercantile trade. Come over here so I can see you. Thanks. And you're really looking smart. So let's take some facts. What is India's trade to GDP ratio? That means India's merchandise exports plus India's merchandise imports divided by India's GDP. In percentage terms, we are standing at about 36%. China, approximately 46%. Merchandise trade, goods, not services, goods. So, if China has to take oil from West Asia, and it has to, because it is today the largest importer of oil on the planet, then I have options. I don't actually have to interdict that trade. I have to have the ability to do so. That ability, so when you talked about Pakistan in the context of us choking trade is not the same as blockade. For a blockade, for a legally defensible blockade, it must be applicable to all ships of all countries. You cannot have a blockade against Pakistan. A blockade is declared on Pakistan for all countries. Nobody is allowed to break your blockade, otherwise it's no longer effective. So my first point to you is simply one of semantics. Not semantics, but terminology. So if you'll permit me to emphasize this to all the people here, terminological exactitude. Sounds like a big word, no? Terminological exactitude is really important. How many of you have not heard this phrase in some language or the other? Wo dena wo kya naam hai tera? You heard, no? Wo dena wo kya naam hai tera? Have you ever realized? Wo dena wo kya naam hai tera? Isko kabhi analyze kiya hai? And yet in Bharatvarsh kuch na kuch ho jata hai. Except that what happens may not be what you wanted to happen. The guy who made it happen may not be the guy you wanted to make it happen, and so on. That is why terminology is important. But does that mean that it's so important that I can't get to your major point? Of course not. Is your major point not valid? Of course it's valid. And your final point is that why don't we have cruisers? So as the navies of the world developed, they first had cruisers, and the cruisers, as I told you, were big ships, not quite as big as battleships, but larger than destroyers, yeah? A typical cruiser of the 1950s or 60s, Cold War, was approximately 8,500 tons in displacement. 8,500 tons in displacement. Today, the INS Visakhapatnam is at 12,500 tons displacement. So what should we call it? It's up to us. The USA calls them cruisers. The Chinese say, we don't have any cruisers. We are a peace-loving nation. But our frigates are 14,000 tons. We say we are even more peace-loving nation. In other words, we are trying to use terminology not to create alarm, but nevertheless. So when you talk about a destroyer of the Indian Navy, today I showed you Chennai in that photograph. Yeah. The displacement of Chennai is just under 12,000 tons. This is 1.5 times the size of a cruiser of the 1960s, of the Cold War. Therefore, Why doesn't India have cruisers? India has cruisers. Why doesn't India call them cruisers? वो बात अलग है. That we can choose, depending on what signal we want to convey. We can choose to call our ships anything we want.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question-answer session, which was very interactive. Before we go on to the vote of thanks, let me make a small announcement. On 12 January at 3 p.m., we have the B.C. Joshi Memorial Lecture, and the Air Chief Marshal, V.R. Chowdhury, is going to deliver this lecture. I repeat again, the B.C. Joshi Memorial Lecture is scheduled on 12 January at 3 p.m. and Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chowdhury is going to deliver this memorial lecture, and the venue is going to be Sant Jnaneshwar Hall, which is just adjacent to this hall. Okay, so all of you are invited for the same. And now we move ahead to the vote of thanks by Rear Admiral R.J. Nadkarni, AVSM, VSM, Indian Navy retired, which will be followed by the national anthem. After the national anthem, we'll have a group photo just behind this hall, and please join us for tea, high tea, at this marble hall. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And it's always a hard act to follow a speaker such as Admiral Chauhan. But today it is my onerous duty to propose this vote of thanks. I'm sure that you will all agree with me that it has been a truly educative and engrossing lecture by Admiral Chauhan, who, as you would have realized by now, is one of the most erudite and brilliant speakers that we have had in the Indian Navy, and who, even after retirement, has continued to speak and write on a range of issues, as well as steer the activities of the National Maritime Foundation, which is the foremost think tank dealing with maritime activities in the country today. Today you heard him speak on historical and contemporary development of warships, which is the very essence of what the Navy is all about. But others, such as myself, who have heard him speak before, know that he can cover subjects as diverse as geostrategy and geopolitics, maritime strategy, international maritime law, India's maritime interests, marine environment and biodiversity, and the blue economy on the one hand, and some of this you must have got a flavor of during the question and answer session. And on the other hand, also he can speak on subjects such as leadership, the arts, as well as etiquette of gentlemen officers and lady officers. And all this with equal ease and authority. So I'm sure that the audience, especially all the students who are present here today, would have gained a much better awareness about the Indian Navy. And I hope that many of you, especially the youngsters, will consider making it their career. As a former or a retired naval officer myself, I can say that there is no better career or profession in the country today. Today is also a momentous day for both the Savitribai Phule Pune University and the National Maritime Foundation in signing this memorandum of understanding between them. I would like to compliment and convey our appreciation to all those who are involved in this venture. Firstly, from the SPPU to Professor Nitin Karmalkar, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, and Professor Vijay Khare, the head of the Department of Defense and Strategic Studies, and secondly to Vice Admiral Pradeep Chauhan, the Director General of the National Maritime Foundation. I am sure to paraphrase the last line of that memorable film, Casablanca, this will no doubt be the beginning of a beautiful partnership. I would also like to compliment the SPPU for including the PG Diploma course on maritime and underwater domain awareness. This is a very important field, which, as the name suggests, allows us to get a better understanding of all the vessels which are operating both above and below the surface, and is very vital towards ensuring our maritime security. We at the IMF, and I'm sure the NMF too, will give the SPPU our wholehearted support in making this course a venture. And best wishes too to the DDSS in attaining its goal of being the best center of excellence for teaching defense and strategic studies in the country. I would like to thank the SPPU management for having facilitated the conduct of all the events that we have witnessed today, especially again to Professor Khare, head of the DDSS. I would also like to express our sincere thanks to all the eminent dignitaries who have been present here and graced this occasion. We have Principal N.S. Umrani, the Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor of the SPPU, and Professor Praful Pawar, who is the Registrar, as a guest of honor, as well as Air Marshal Bhushan Gokhale, the Director of the Center for Advanced Strategic Studies, Rear Admiral Purushottam Sharma, the President of the Rashtriya Life Saving Society, as also General Chavan. In addition, we have had Professor Suresh Gosavi, Bharati Kokila, Apurva Palkar, and Dr. Parag Kalkar, who have been present here today on this occasion. I thank them all. I would also like to thank the principal organizers, Captain Anand Dikshit, President, and Commodore Ajay Chitnis, the Vice President of the Indian Maritime Foundation, Professor Khare, the head of the DDSS, along with Dr. Ravi Thorat and Ms. Dipali Khaire of the DDSS, for all the efforts in preparing for and facilitating today's event. Lastly, I would also like to thank the Compare for the smooth conduct of all the different serials that were done today. At the end, I would like to thank the entire audience who have been present here on this occasion, especially the students from the SPPU, the NCC cadets, as well as some C cadets, for your attentiveness during the lecture and for the very interactive question and answer sessions, during which some very relevant and pointed questions were asked. If I have left anyone out, I beg his or her forbearance. At the end, I would like to wish all of you a very happy New Year in advance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rear Admiral R.J. Nadkani, AVSM, VSM, Indian Navy retired, for delivering this vote of thanks. Now, I would request all of you to stand for the national anthem. Once again, I repeat, after this, gather together for a group photograph and tea at the Marble Hall. Jai Hind.
सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्ज्वल जलधि तरंग तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगल दायक जय है भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you very much. And please join us for a group photograph behind and followed by high tea. Jai Hind.